Welcome to Service Headline News. I am Marty Smith.
I'm Eric Pratt.
And I'm Jake Wall.
And we're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all servicemen and women. So sit back, get informed, and have a laugh as the Swearing In Podcast presents Service Headline News. Man, it's good to see you again. I'm glad you're back. So
appreciate that, man.
If we had done it yesterday, I would have had a good day in history. So let's go into that on October. Oh, shit, I forgot. I screwed it up. October 4th. On October 4th of 1943. And I chose this story because I just interviewed a Navy retired commander who served aboard this ship when he was in. So October 4th, 1943.
Hold on. Do you know today's the 5th?
Yes, I do. That's why I said if we'd have done it on time, this day in military history would have applied.
I got you.
You listen to anything I say.
You did take liberties last time, and you did it a day later for the last podcast.
Well, anyway. That's because that's when it's going to be published.
Oh, okay.
Jeez, internal strife.
I apologize for my
As you were.
October 4th, 1943, aircraft from USS Ranger sank 5 German ships and damaged 3 in Operation Leader, the only U.S. Navy carrier operation in northern European waters during World War II, which is true. Whenever they talk about carriers, it's always in the Pacific. Yep. You don't hear much about the Battle of the Atlantic. I know there was U-boats and transports and all that stuff, but apparently the USS Ranger was in European waters during World War II. So they also sank 2 of 4 small German merchantmen in the Bodo Roadstead. A second Ranger attack group of 10 Avengers and 6 Wildcats destroyed a German freighter and a small coaster and bombed yet another troop-laden transport. 3 Ranger planes were lost to anti-aircraft fire. On the afternoon of 4 October, Ranger was finally located by 3 German aircraft, but her combat air patrol shot down 2 of the enemy planes and chased off the 3rd. Ranger returned to Scapa Flow, which was where its home fleet was, on the 6th of October. So, pretty cool. That whole Battle of the Atlantic, I don't know very much about. I should look it up. There's not very much written about it other than, the U-boats and Das Boot and all that stuff. So there's your day in military history. Aircraft from the USS Ranger sink 5 German ships and damage 3. Good on them.
Nice.
Eric, what do you got for the new meals coming out?
Well, you know what? Before our discussion, I was thinking this would be nothing but funny, and then I started feeling bad. Man, I gotta take into consideration these guys that like vegetables, man. So I've got an article that talks about vegan meals finally joining the MRE lineup. And I thought that was interesting because, like I said, back in my day, man, we had C rations in the beginning of MREs, and it was all about getting in high calories, protein, downrange, energy you needed to keep you moving. And I just sort of chuckled at this article when I read it because I said, man, I don't know what it's going to provide.
Well, and I thought, like we were talking about, I thought they had, because I remember in the late 90s, they started coming out with at least non-meat meals. They used to call them all faith, because I think there was a big contingent of Muslim service members that needed to not eat meat. So I thought they came out with those. I remember them calling them all faith meals, but then I don't know if they transitioned into a vegetarian meal.
Right.
Jake, you said you had vegetarian meals, right?
That cheese tortellini with pesto, that was my favorite one, actually.
It was actually pretty good. That was pretty good.
It was funny. I guess I just wasn't aware. So this was kind of an enlightening article for me. It's funny.
But they're expanding
about the level of preservatives in it. Like, I mean, they all have just
right,
1,000% preservatives.
Well, I mean,
I'm wondering,
if you're worried about calories, I mean, you can get that oatmeal bar, that solid brick of oatmeal bar. That thing's got to be 500-600 calories alone.
Look like a piece of Play-Doh.
every package has a minimum, like you have a minimum requirement for every MRE, like
between 1,500
protein,
and
calories
2,000
and all that
calories.
stuff.
Yeah, it's
but
Yeah, there's minimum requirements for all of it, so they have to be packed full of.
how are
I
you
don't know,
getting that in a vegan or a vegetarian meal?
bean paste.
a lot of beans,
Nothing
man. A
but
lot of beans.
chickpeas and beans, I
Well,
guess.
gentlemen, let me assure you that
I don't know.
right now, you only have 4 MREs in the lineup that are vegetarian. That is the current number of meals ready to eat the military offers vegetarian service members.
Did they list which ones they were?
It did not.
Oh.
And while the military can technically support in-theater dietary needs of service members who eat kosher, halal, what is HALAL, guys?
Halal. That's Muslim.
Halal.
Halal. Yeah, it's basically the Muslim version of kosher. You have to kill it, the animal in a certain way. You can't have certain cuts. You can't have
no
pork,
cloven hoof.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And vegetarian. There aren't any solely plant-based options for vegans yet. So as of July 14th, the House of Representatives passed the 23 National Defense Authorization Act, which includes an amendment that requires the Defense Logistics Agency to produce a report due September of 2023 on plant-based MREs. The study's results are expected to include cost analysis, service member demand, and an implementation plan. DEVCOM Soldiers Center's Combat Feeding Division, DEVCOM, is aware of the House report requirement and is working on compliance with our Defense Logistic Agency colleagues, David Aceta, the program and strategy lead for the Army Futures Command Leader Professional Development Program, said in a note to Military Times. Good God, that's a long sentence. The report is expected to include no fewer than 2 plant-based meal options for troops. The services submit statements of need to the Combat Feeding Research and Engineering Program each year. Can you believe we've got a Combat Feeding Research and Engineering Program?
Yeah, of course. There's a grant for everything.
And they are used to drive innovation and research, development, test, and evaluation efforts to modernize the field feeding capabilities. After development, all new operational ration components are warfighter tested and approved before being transitioned to DLA for procurement. There is little indication of what a plant-based MRE will look or taste like, but the Combat Feeding Division has already produced, and these are where you're going to love these, some dehydrated vegetable bars.
Yeah.
Including a spinach loaf that packs enough greenery to turn Popeye the Sailor Man into the Incredible Hulk.
And you know that old school tobacco brick? I bet you that's what it looks like.
Oh yeah.
Green.
Yeah.
Right? Like
you mean the plug?
Yeah, exactly.
The tobacco plug. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's probably similar to what it looks like.
You could be right. Yeah, you could be right.
Well, I propose we do a tasting party when this comes out.
Oh, man.
That would be fun. I wonder if that would, I don't know if that would make a great audio pod, but it would make a great video podcast. That would be
yeah.
So these things are supposed to be coming into service at the end of 2023, the 2 plant-based, along with the other 4 vegetarian offers. So crazy.
Remember the challenge to eat the cracker packet in, what was it, like 2 minutes with no water?
Yeah.
Now you're going to have the vegetable plug, and you got to down that with no water. There's no time limit. Just down it with no water. And you're like,
dehydrated vegetable bar. Is that going to be, mixed vegetables, just broccoli or Brussels sprout?
I don't know, whatever they
look like veg-all with oats. In a granola bar.
Yeah, the Australians are like, oh yeah, we eat that all the time, mate.
Vegemite.
I question how our vegetarian and vegan friends survived in our day when we didn't have those options. What do you think?
Well, yeah, but there wasn't the push to do it. Now, in all fairness, there is all that data out there now, especially since how our food has changed with preservatives and hormones and all that stuff. That I was telling Eric this. You hear some of these reports and stuff about what they're doing to process the food, and you're like, Jesus, that's bad.
I think though the preservative comment though, that one's void.
It's got to be, right, because it's got to have a shelf life.
It has to be. It has to have a long shelf life and exposed to hot and cold and everything.
Okay, let's see. I got a couple quick stories here from 5 October 2022 from Military News. The Coast Guard suspends a policy that booted troops who weren't promoted quickly enough. It's a terrible headline, but basically they're suspending the high year tenure waiver or high year tenure rule. So it used to be if you didn't get promoted and you were already at so many years in, the military could kick you out. Well, in this case, the Coast Guard. So they suspended that in a brilliant idea for keeping retainment. So now you got all these guys who can't get promoted, but they're not going to get kicked out. They're happy anyway, right? So they're already pissed off they can't get promoted. They're like, hey, keep pulling these shifts. And I'm like, oh, yes, sons of bitches. So at least they're not kicking them out. So for the time being, they're suspending it through December 31st, 2024. And that's one of the clever ideas that the Coast Guard is using to keep retention of sailors. I don't know what they're called. I don't know what Coast Guard people are called. I should know that, but I don't know. Well, I know that's the kind of the slang term we use for them, but I don't know if that's true. So good on the Coast Guard and good on those guys who are getting close to that high year tenure. Now they can stay in at least for another 2 years.
Wait, remember when Air Force would kick you out as a senior airman for higher tenure, but you would get like a severance package kind of thing?
I remember that. It didn't seem fair.
That's what it was. If you couldn't make staff sergeant, you would get kicked out for higher tenure, but you would get kind of like a severance package, which was like a year's pay. My very first roommate was actively studying to not make staff sergeant. He was studying his ass off to make this. To not make staff sergeant because he wanted, He was going to get a 0 out of 100 on this test, and he was determined.
He was taking nothing to chance, so he was making sure.
He was already going to get out. He's like, I'm already going to get out. I already have plans to go back home.
Yeah.
I might as well get a severance package. I was like, well,
right.
All right.
Smart guy. By the way, Coast Guardsman. Irrespective of gender. Coastie is an informal term commonly used to refer to current or former Coast Guard personnel.
Okay.
Coast Guardsman. Huh.
Coast Guardsman.
That's gender neutral too, though. So.
Yep. Irrespective of gender.
So did he do it?
Yeah, he did it.
So he didn't get promoted, and they gave him that separation. They gave him that separation pay.
Yeah, they gave him that separation pay, and he got out and went back home, and then had a full-on job as an aircraft mechanic.
Really, that's brilliant. Actually, that's really smart.
He didn't make it the first couple of times, like not intentionally, and
then he just threw his hat in.
But then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to actually study this time. I'll show them."
Okay, just on a quick note from Military News, Air Force grounds C-130Hs to examine propeller barrel cracks. So in total, 116 C-130Hs could be affected after the Air Force discovered a crack in a part that holds the propeller and ordered the aircraft to be grounded last week. So they're going to keep them all down until they can figure that out and probably replace all those propeller assemblies, which they're going to be down for a while.
What are we going to do about responding to other ships that need aircraft? Their C-130s are grounded.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know what model the 130 is up to. I don't know if the 130H is the most current model.
Yeah.
But maybe they got some other ones. Yeah, maybe they got some other ones. I don't know. I remember talking to the helicopter mechanics, and Jake, you can tell me if you have something like this. I remember the helicopter mechanics were talking about, because since we're talking about the part that holds the propeller onto the hub, right? The helicopter mechanics used to talk about this one big bolt that held the rotors on to like the spindle, and they called it the Jesus nut. So that fucker went. It was like, you better start praying to Jesus. That was it, right?
You better pray.
Did they have anything like that on the stuff that you were working on?
Man, I was on the 810, so that thing, it didn't care about FOD. It didn't care about anything. We had a plane land, and the pilot was like, I think I had a bird strike. And we go over to the wing, and it turns out later he had hit a bald eagle.
Oh,
and it had split in half along like the wheel well area. It had split in half, and half had gone up in through the engine. You could see the blood smear, and then half had gotten smashed and chewed up on the weapons area.
Oh, okay.
And it was fine. He landed like, I think I had something hit me. And it was like the biggest bird you could possibly hit other than an ostrich.
I've seen pictures of that plane receiving all kinds of damage from AAA.
Yeah.
Where it was just unbelievable that it still stayed in the air.
Yeah, it's a flying tank.
That famous story of that lady, the female pilot that landed, and she had one tail wing and 3/4 of the other wing. And it was,
wow.
And yeah, it's just crazy the amount of damage that thing can take.
That is amazing.
That's badass.
Marty, just a heads up, there are 8 specific aerial ones for the C-130, different letter profiles.
Oh, yeah?
And not counting the specific shred outs of the EC-130, KC-130, and then the spooky. Those are all not counted. But the H is in there, A, B, E, F, G, H, K, T, and J. And they're all used in various different areas.
If you're listening and you're flying that H model, you ain't flying tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you got for us, Jake?
Well, I got 2. I got a feel good, but then I got let's have a discussion one. The first one is Biden administration supports its decision to discharge nearly 20,000 troops for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. It goes on to say that they were otherwise healthy, but they discharged them, which honestly, compared to historical discharge things for that was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
He said, one of the spokesmen said, vaccines are a valid military requirement, and you want your troops to be ready, which is, that statement in itself is valid, right? We all had 1,000 shots.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But that whole thing, whether you think this vaccine is valid itself or the boosters or whatever, that whole requirement of troops to be vaccinated is long and fraught with many, instances of people getting kicked out, right? We were talking about the anthrax vaccine.
Anthrax. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a couple people that refused to take it, and so they were booted.
Yeah.
And if that's your choice, that's your choice. Fine. But I can also understand why the military needs to keep you vaccinated, you know.
Well, I am of two minds on this. And the first is, hey, you're in the military. The whole thing is that you're part of you're a cog in the machine, right? They tell you to do this. They tell you to go pull guard. They tell you to pull a midshift. They tell you to go here, go there. That's your job. You're supposed to go obey the federal government. So those who didn't want to take it, in one mind, I don't have any sympathy for you. It's like, hey, that you signed up for it. Sorry, they chose this mountain to die on, but they tell you to take it. However, the other mind is the whole COVID thing. I mean, it's so new. Even anthrax, which I didn't really want to take, and I got close where I didn't have to take it because we didn't actually deploy over to the desert, but we were lined up for it.
Right.
I didn't want to take it. I'm glad I didn't take it because I'd read enough stuff of like people's bad reactions to it. You guys both took it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I had 9.
They just had
they did.
And
yeah,
even
it was either 5 or 6 was the basic, right?
Yeah.
And then you had boosters every time.
Yeah.
You just keep getting back in that line. You're like, what are you doing here again? It's like, shit, I'm in the line again. Too late.
Every time I had my like the first 5 or 6, and then we would deploy every year to the same area, which was Kuwait, which was back then it was right on the southern border, and Iraq was crazy.
Yep.
Bioweapons, baby. Bioweapons.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had to walk from Tent City, we had to walk to the flight line, and we had to stay on the pallets because it was cleared area from UXOs. And we had the red rope with the wooden UXO signs dangling on it on either side of the pallets.
But I like the little red rope, but like they'll obey this.
Yeah, they won't pay attention to that. It's funny, but at the end of every single rotation, all those signs, they were little wooden red triangles with a bomb printed on them.
Yeah,
all those signs would be gone at the end of every rotation. People would go by and snip them as souvenirs. It was the best souvenir ever.
Hey, look what I got. What about the rest of the guys who need to be warned? I was like, too bad for them.
We're good.
The interesting question for me is when did they not start thinking about retention in this question? We're going to give up
that was
20,000 people, right? And lose good quality people because they're not going to take the vaccination.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other mind I got is that the vaccination is so new, and I don't know about the science behind it, but I didn't know about the science behind anthrax either, and it'd been around for a while, and I knew it was bad, but you got to take it, right? Or you're getting kicked out. We knew what it was, but this one is so quick, and so all of a sudden you have to take it.
Yeah.
It's still hard to find out what the truth is about this thing.
Yeah.
Were they using, what was the religious objection? Because they were using stem cells or something like that to develop some of them.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure which one. I can't get any information on it, right? So
that's the weird thing. I just don't like the lack of conversation and the lack of
I agree.
Clear information, because it's just also tainted now.
It went from, hey, we got it, now you got to take it. So,
yeah. Eric, it did lean in that direction during the rest of the article. There was a discussion that in times like this, where almost virtually every branch, the interviewer said virtually every branch has failed to make their recruitment goals for this year.
Right. We've talked about that.
Yeah. The response was, well, look, first of all, the Navy did make their recruitment goals for enlisted personnel this year. I'm like, okay, well,
they did.
Yes, recruiting. Well, that just according to this, this interview. So
interesting.
But yeah, kicking out 20,000 people,
right?
Probably not the best idea, especially after Marty's last discussion of, hey, the Coasties removed higher tenure,
right?
to retain people, right?
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, and man, we've all seen that ebb and flow over the decades, right? We've seen them. Oh, we need this bodies, we need this career field, and
Right.
then nope, everybody go back to your old career field.
Well, and they usually controlled that through bonuses, right?
Yeah,
Or critical manning AFSCs
Stop
or
loss.
MREs. Stop loss too, right?
Yeah.
Stop loss too, yeah. But this one, it's so when our kids are going to read about this, and they're going to go, they actually kick people out of the military for this damn thing, and we're like, yeah, I know, it's nuts, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a feeling that when the history is written on this thing, they'll be like, oh yeah, that was a big mistake. We probably shouldn't have done that. So
yeah, I think that might come back and bite him as well.
So the next news article I
close us out. Make us feel good.
All right. We have a Marine Corps Guinness Book World Record holder.
All right.
So
what's his name?
Well, I think she's a her, but
she's
you sexist son of a bitch. All right, U.S. Marine Corporal Sergeant Nala Beard set the.
Wait, what'd you say her rank was?
Marine Corps Sergeant.
Oh, Marine Corps. I thought you said Corporal Sergeant.
Oh no, sorry, Marine Corps Sergeant Nala Beard set the Guinness Book of World Record for most burpees in 1 minute, and it was a 27 burpees, and these were chest to ground burpees. So to do this, she had a specific taped off area that she had to jump within, specific height. When she went down, it was chest to ground, so she had to lift her arms out away from her body and up, and then continue the burpee.
Oh, so she didn't have to do a push-up when she got down there, right?
No, she did. She had to go down onto her chest, lift her arms out away from her body off the ground, and then do a push-up, and then spring into the jump and everything. Continue the burpee, and she did 27 in a minute. But I thought the interesting thing was that she was so determined to get this record that she did this 5 times in one day, just in case they didn't count one of them.
You mean like with the Guinness people watching her every time?
Yeah.
It's funny. It doesn't sound impressive until you start thinking about, okay,
that's what I just did. Yeah.
What that burpee consists of and how many you can get in a minute. Okay. I get it then,
It's almost like 2 seconds of burpee, right?
Damn.
Yeah, it's quick.
That's quick.
And we believe that also includes men, right?
I'm excessively winded. I honestly don't know. I don't know. It just says, it didn't say men or women or anything. It just said Guinness Book World Record for most burpees in a minute.
That's got to include men.
So there's no M or F
right?
asterisks in it.
I'm probably tainted when I think of the burpee, because that's always like part of when you do group PT and you're like, okay, we're just going to do stations. Go do 30 seconds of burpees. And you get the 3 guys are like, down, kick my legs back, 1 push up, jump high, right? They're like 1, and like, okay, rotate. They're like, good.
Perfect. You better clap at the top. Clap at the top.
Oh my God.
There could be a more spaz-looking exercise than the burp, right?
It does look ridiculous, but they are difficult.
They're hard, man. They suck. And it's everything. Every muscle you got is involved in it.
Yeah.
They called them breakfast burpees. Every morning. Breakfast burpees.
Probably see your breakfast after.
Oh, that's gross.
It's like, you ever do those Turkish get-ups?
Turkish get-ups.
Captain. Well, no, that's what. Yeah, it's a wrestling one. But Captain Norwood had us doing them out in the desert.
Yeah,
and it's basically like you lie flat, and then you basically kind of roll on your side, and then you have a weight in one hand, and you constantly have that over your body, like constantly. It's always up.
Oh,
and there's like 5 steps to getting up. I was making fun of these things, but man, they are horrible.
really?
Oh, they're horrible. They're horrible. After 2 of me, of course, being a smartass and joking about it, I was like, okay, I'm not saying anything else about this.
It's good.
I shut up quick.
So Corporal Nala did 27 in a minute.
Yeah. Yep. Corporal Nala Beard did 27 in a minute, and she did it 5 separate times that day.
Where is she? Where is she from? Where is she stationed?
She's stationed Iwakuni, Japan.
Japan.
Wow.
So, Marine Corps Air Station, Iwakuni, Japan.
I wonder how many times that little record will be challenged.
Well, now the people, I mean, it sounds, like we said, it sounds beatable, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
You have to be moving.
you gotta really move.
Like,
Yeah. Like you 2 big, tall, lanky guys would have no shot. No shot. Doing 27 in a minute. You got way too far to travel.
exactly. It's so far down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then put your head,
Need a
your chest
TBI
on the
just
ground
falling.
and your hands out, like, to prove your chest is on the ground. Forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hats
I
off.
went on further in the interview, and they were asking her, "Hey, do you have any plans to break your record?" And she didn't say no or yes. She's just like, "Hey, right now I'm concentrating on powerlifting. A year ago, I was in the 500-pound club, and just
Wow.
last week I made it to the 700-pound club."
Holy cow, man.
So she's not playing, man. And it's got a couple of pictures of her, and she's like a tough looking lady.
Of course, she might have been
Pretty
thinking to
short.
herself, I was trying to break it the 4 other effing times that I did it that day, but I couldn't quite get it. So,
I mean, that's true. I know after like 5, I would be so tired that I would jump and then like fall or put a foot outside the box or something like that, right?
yeah, that's right.
You
She
gotta
had
land in
parameters,
that
right?
box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good on you, Corporal. I think that's good for the week. What do you think, gentlemen?
I concur.
I'm good.
Good turnaround, man.
On behalf of SR Parad and Senior Master Wall, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, please leave a like and share the podcast with someone else. Let us know how we did in the comments. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service headline news. On that note, man, I'll see you next week.
All right, we'll see you.
Good night,
All
dude.
right.